Hi, you're listening to a podcast under the Eagle Eye. My name is Cameron T. Dalton, copy editor of the Eagle Eye newspaper. I am joined today by Christian Awong and James Gilbert, and today we'll be discussing the use of VR technology to allow family members to reunite with loved ones that are no longer with us. Now, this information is coming from an article from Scott Hading from roadtovr.com that the South Korean TV broadcaster MBC, and with a documentary called I Met You, recently aired a Korean documentary that centers on a family's loss of their young daughter, 7-year-old Naeyeon. Using the power of photogrammetry, motion capture, and virtual reality, the team recreated Naeyeon for one last goodbye with the family's mother, Ji-sung. And now, there's no denying that technology affects all aspects of life. That's true, as it helps make our lives easier. One aspect could involve the very way we perceive death. And today I look to ask both of you your stance on the subject. Now, what do you think the pros of such technology could be?
Well, I think it could bring a lot of people closure because I know a lot of illnesses and diseases that can lead to death or even freak accidents can leave people feeling empty because maybe a last interaction was unsatisfactory or maybe they just wanted more. So I think it could be a good idea to give people the closure they need to heal and kind of cope with that death.
Okay.
I agree with that.
All right. So you feel like it would be good? It would be good to give them like one last bit of closure, because when someone passes away, like you're not able to talk with them, and that's your last like communication with them.
Exactly, because when someone is tied to someone else in any form of relationship, when it ends, especially with death, closure is typically needed 100%.
Yeah, it's the hardest thing, and I feel like that could be a very great thing for us because my mom passed away about 10 years ago, and it was completely unexpected, and like closure is probably like the hardest thing for me, or it was the hardest thing for me, just because like again none of us were expecting it, and it was just like, okay, now I gotta fill this void, and now this is empty, and now I don't know how to cope with this. And it was just, you had to kind of find, everyone copes with death in a different way, everyone grieves a different way, so I feel as though like everyone just has their own type of methods that they come up with, but I feel like this could again bring people closer.
Okay. How do you think it would bring people closer?
Just getting a chance to, either say that final goodbye, or, a lot of people have some regrets, or they may live in like the whole shoulda, coulda, woulda, I wish I could have done this, I wish I could have done that. So I feel like it could, bring them closer in that regard, in terms of just, saying what they have to say, or, depending on what type of relationship they have with that type of person.
Okay. Now it's not all sunshine and rainbows, as there are many people who feel like using this technology is morbid, or just is disrespectful, or just not the right way to cope with things. And there's like people who feel like this is unnatural, and that the person who passed away, they're gone, and using like a virtual reality of someone is not healthy. And with that being said, I wonder what you feel like could be the cons of such technology.
There are many viewpoints to that. To start off, I will say it is unnatural because it was not made naturally. It's technological, right. And there's nothing wrong with that. Nothing wrong with that at all. And it depends really on the person and culture, whether it's disrespectful or not, and exactly how you're using it. If you're using it to interact and say goodbye and kind of get some healing, you just want to really see that person again, I see no reason why not to. I don't see that as disrespectful. If you're doing something that isn't maybe polite, correct, appropriate, whatever the term may be, then that would be disrespectful, like maybe fighting or trying to fight, being mad, just whatever, just trying to dig up old pain, hurt, whatever. I would think that'd be very disrespectful. But other than that, creating someone's image to really, get what you need, I see no problem with that.
Yeah, I feel like it could be healthy, again, when you're dealing with, past loved ones, again, I think it just depends on the person. Depends on the relationship between that person. I feel like depending on whether that person may be obsessive with that type of person when it comes to death, maybe, if it comes to regards where you start becoming obsessive and you're trying to find some type of, I guess, not stimulant, that's not necessarily the right word I want to use, but something where it becomes unhealthy and you're like, okay, I gotta see this person, or okay, I gotta do this, and that's like your only way of dealing with it, and your lifestyle and your habits become, people notice that you're changing, then I feel like, it could be a little bit much. But I still think that it should help, and I think I don't see anything wrong with that.
And that's a funny thing you say about obsession, because for many people, there's the fear that because you're seeing your loved one again, that there's always a fear that you're going to become too dependent on it, that you'll become obsessed. Like, I have to see them again. Even though I know that this isn't them, like, I just have to just spend one more moment with them.
Right. I feel like you can kind of get caught in denial, or this person they're still here, and then the reality is they're not. But this is like a form of like who they are, like they're still here in some way.
Okay.
Yeah, because they're basically appropriating that person's image like it would be in a photograph.
Right.
And as new things come along, like photography, videography, people have always had a problem with it. Rather, they feel like it's invading their privacy or just doing something that they don't understand. So of course these are logical issues that are going to come to the forefront. But like you said, I agree.
And lastly, in regards to cons, there's the idea that if such technology were to get out by corporations, whoever who decides oh, well, I need to get ahead of this technology, that they're going to want to monopolize it and just use it on a person and just try to exploit them.
Yeah. Capitalism.
Yeah. Like I mentioned before, the whole face app thing, when people who sent their what was it, the age thing, people would send their photos or whatever, and next thing you know, someone already has that data. And I feel like when you're dealing with past loved ones, I feel like that could be an issue, depending on who owns that data, and who has the rights to all that type of stuff, and will they eventually with these big companies exploit that.
Yeah, definitely, because already, death is already such a marketable experience, because we've got, different things that we didn't really need in the past, like extraordinarily decorated caskets, things like that. Now we can turn loved ones' ashes into diamonds. There's so many things, and it's definitely monopolizable.
Right.
So it definitely will be taken advantage of, I am sure.
That's something to watch out for. Now, what could be regarding hopping off that train of thought? What could be the moral implications of using such technology?
I mean, again, you are seeing your loved one again. I'm not really sure about how often, or if it's a one-time opportunity, or will it eventually become hey, these are the set times you can. If it's going to be hey, you can log in, or you can see your loved one, or whatever the case is. Again, I think it's, it can be very helpful. Again, but at the same time, we do have to keep in mind the whole privacy situation. So it goes either or.
And I just thought of something. Now, would this technology be available to all ages? Because I know some age, when you're younger, you're not able to handle, you're not processing death in the same way that an adult would. So what I would like to ask you both, how would you feel, should there be a set age limit to when you could use such technology to meet with a loved one?
Personally, I feel like there should be, just because I know when I lost my mom, I didn't know, I couldn't take, I was only 11 years old, so even that's still fairly young. I probably wouldn't, advise anyone to be using that type of technology at that age, at least until either, I guess with the parents' consent, you do anything else. But for the sake of, their mental state and maturity, I wouldn't do that.
Okay.
Yeah, especially since it's not really a necessity. It's more of a luxury. And even with it being a VR experience, with younger children probably being involved with that, I feel like that would somehow mess with their mentality just a little bit, or maybe inhabiting some sort of codependence with that technology, maybe kind of creating false memories, kind of more confusing.
Right.
I'm not sure if that would really have any huge long-term effects negatively, but I don't know. I kind of just feel like it's such a mature form of technology that hasn't really been, experimented with enough, that maybe for now there probably should be for more mature minds that can intake media appropriately and kind of see the ins and outs.
Okay. All right. So last question. How would such technology, if we were to go to mainstreaming, because this is just one example of it, but with the rise of technology, in fact, and artificial AI, like this could be something that we see more of in the future, especially in movies. How we use CGI to recreate, to either age people down, age people up, or recreate like people who have passed on. So how do you think the use of this technology in this way could affect how we cope with death as a society?
I feel like it just depends. I mean, we also got to think about this. Like, I mean, who is it going to be, available to? Is it going to be like a small group of people? Is it going to be, how is it going to be like a cost type of thing? Like, hey, you have to pay this amount of money up front in order to like get to see your loved one, or how is it going to work? So I feel like you have to play all that factors in. I don't know if we know all that stuff yet.
Right.
But if it's going to be available to everyone, like, I think it just depends on how people use it. People have different intentions with it, so I guess it just depends on, what the general ideal is.
Okay.
Yeah, it might depend on someone's level of pain. Like, I know with some people, as said before, it'll probably bring closure and everything. Like, the more you view it in your home and you start to heal. But in some cases, it might actually bring up the wounds and intensify them to where they can't really get closure. It might actually keep increasing the pain that they no longer can have a true relationship with this person.
Right.
So, I mean, there are positives and negatives to it all, but on the positive spectrum, I think it'll really help people to cope with that death, just to be able to interact in some sort of way, since we're all kind of social beings. We all kind of want to, have some sort of form of touching going on, some sort of intimacy with someone that we loved,
Right. Okay. Any further thoughts on the subject?
Not that I know of. I would love to learn more about it though.
Okay.
In the future, I think it's very interesting, especially for someone who's lost a loved one before. So I think definitely would love to see what it is going to be in the future.
Definitely. I'm honestly surprised that it exists, because this wasn't on my mind. So the
Yeah,
fact
like
that someone
I had
created
no
it,
idea that this was even a thing.
yeah, I'm like, wow, that's actually kind of cool that people are thinking about using VR kind of well now.
Yeah.
Because in the mass, having VR in the masses, it hasn't really been as great as, you would hope.
Okay. Well then, thank you for your time, gentlemen, and I hope that you all have a great time, and who knows, maybe in the future we'll all have VR replicants of ourselves.
Yeah, it's definitely scary.
I hope not.
Definitely scary. Very scary.
This face should not be seen by anyone else after death.
No.
All right. Well, thank you for your time, and we're heading out.
Thanks for having me.
Take care. Bye.